I fumbled around at the start, but it looks like we're finally live now. Um, the Midnight Vault 2, I'm sure a lot of you already know what that is all about. I did it last year. There's people joining us tonight who did it last year. And this year they were doing a second Midnight Vault. That was Jay Curtis, Shane Bizdock, Sean McDonnell, Brian Paroli. They assembled again to do a Midnight Vault 2. And there's been over 98 entries. Not going to read all 98. So we will eventually get through them. The team doing the book are going to have to read them all. I wouldn't want their job because that's a lot of stories. But what I'll do for you tonight is I've picked a few that I've put on my Kindle already, and yeah, I want to see what Brian Paroli says about all those stories you've got to get through. But what I'll do is I'll read a handful of them. Um, can't promise I'll fit loads in. I think I'm going to fit about 4 in. We'll see how we go. Because I've estimated it'll take about 15-20 minutes to get through each one. But we'll see. So what I've got with me on my Kindle tonight is It's Never Aliens by A.P. Murphy. I've got Unsavory Person by Judith Ashcraft. I've got Amusing Elwood by Evelyn K. Brunswick. I've got The Unlikely Wing by Tate Ellis. I've got The Lobby by Charlotte Denby. I've got Lonesome End by Miguel Stepan. And I've also got, who else is here? Which One of You Was It by Nick Winnie. I've got that as well. So as I said, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get through all of them. But we'll see how we go. And if I can't do them not all the ones on my Kindle, not all of them. But if I can't do all the ones on my Kindle, then I'll do some more next week. And then I might just carry on through December. It depends how many people get fed up and just, walk away. But I don't know. I think we could make a thing of this. Every week we could do a Midnight Vault reading. I've managed to break me little phone stand thing somehow, or maybe I didn't. Maybe the toddler did. I don't know. Just blame her. But yeah, we can get through some of these. So what I'll start with is Amusing Elwood by Evelyn K. Brunswick. So let's start again. Ignore the mess behind me. I've got a Warhammer gamer for a husband. And there's dragons everywhere and trolls and stuff. And then the small amount of books, they're mine. That's what I'm allowed to have. So this was, I believe, in the sci-fi section of the Midnight Vault 2. So where are we? Let's go back because I've obviously already been through it. This is a book. Oh yeah, Amusing Elwood. There we go. Bear with me. Oh, for God's sake. Right, unavailable for downloads. Right, bear with me. I think my Wi-Fi keeps kicking out as well. It's just typical, isn't it? Right, so I found this quite funny, Amusing Elwood. But we'll see. Right, so Evelyn thanked everyone at the start as well, which is nice. I didn't. I forgot to do that bit. But Evelyn did. Even the postman had more character than Darius Elwood. Most of the time, posties don't bother taking any interest in anything they deliver. Think about it. If they did, immortality would be theirs, would it not? They would defeat the demon time simply out of curiosity. They would have a Sisyphean to be red pile mounting up every morning before they had a chance to finish the previous day's editions. And because the universe is nothing if not semiotic and loves well the sending of missives, that postie would be blessed with all those extra hours, and those hours would never catch up with his ageless heart. And yet, why be more interested in other people's lives than your own? Some of the time, though, of course they notice. Oddly shaped parcels, for example, parcels with impossibly angled protrusions, and parcels with proclamations of divinity or divination, and parcels from far-flung places like Peru or Paraguay or Portland, Oregon, or papers from Panama even, promising the channeling of unexpected windfalls. Parcels from dodgy adult playtime entrepreneurs. They don't care much for your bills and your invoices. You can be reassured of that. And your love letters, no, that's not their business. Besides, isn't one declaration of romance no different from the next? Likewise, some customers keep receiving the same sort of thing day in, day out for months on end, like Darius Elwood. Posty couldn't help noticing and conjuring up some, as it happens, accurate evaluation of the fellow, simply by casually taking in the return addresses on that long sequence of large manila envelopes, the kind they use for classified information. They all had one thing in common: writing advice. How to write, how to find your muse, invitations to writers' retreats and half-price vouchers for this or that writing course. Scams, half of them. You can either write or you can't, according to Posty. And rejections, a lot of rejections. An almost endless stream of them, a series of them. Season 1, Season 2, etc. Truth is, despite possessing a superbly literary moniker, true life crime fiction perhaps, Darius Elwood was stuck in the same story and kept on repeating the same story over and over. There was no muse. He had no characters and no character of his own. And so, gentility notwithstanding, he shuffles perennially about his uncleaned apartment, scratching his balding pate with a sort of self-indulgent Woody Allen-esque neuroticism written all over his ovulent middle-aged visage. Mumbling to himself too, no doubt, wondering where he'd left common household items, rearranging a few strands of stray hair, yet studiously avoiding the mirror, forgetting how to cook, and therefore wasting away on TV dinners with no one else in his miserable little life with whom to share them. Write about what you know. That's what people say. Everyone has a novel in them. Posty didn't believe that. But the demon, time. Oh yes, the demon believes that wholeheartedly, and gleefully sets about proving it to himself. Especially, as the custom tells us here, when the clocks fall back in the witching hour and herald the onset of November. You see, there's a special place for the likes of Darius Elwood, hopeful and characterless writer without a muse. When November comes around again here, in the Twilight Zone, this is what he was waiting for. Oh yes, he can tell just by the feel of it. Elwood rips open the envelope, and there, on the crisp and gilded paper, with calligraphy no less, is his prize offer. First, 30 respondents get the free trip, all expenses included, to the November Writing Commune. Meet your muse. Enter December with a novel. By the end of the month, they promise, you'll have your novel done, or we'll recompense you a princely sum. 10,000 bucks, his brain suggested. There was a return address, of course. So clever, Darius Elwood bypasses the postal service and travels there in person and delivers his response in person and waits like a patient in the reception lobby until a cute-looking blonde girl with an Ivy League accent sends him home. Although not without, to Elwood at least, one of those winks or sly smiles or similarly effective gestures which, to Elwood at least, says, sure, of course you're one of the first. And yes, his interpretation of that gesture, for once, was indeed spot on. Time, place, GPS coding, arrival protocols, potential introduction to the personal news, all of it inside that lovely manila envelope, inviting him, Darius Elwood. October passes as if the demon, time, was entirely uninterested and uninspired for the month, or, perhaps more accurately, had spent that month wisely plotting. It had, however, concluded that scheme well in time for Halloween. It made a point of keeping that schedule each year, that particular red letter being a personal favourite after all. Darius Elwood, likewise, kept himself busy packing up a trunk for the month and loading it up into the boot of his ludicrous daffodil yellow Volkswagen the night before the trip. He'd suffered a horrendous recurrent anxiety dream throughout the week prior to which he dutifully turned up at the appointed place, only to be told, in no uncertain terms and conditions, that he was 1 minute late and would not be admitted. Thus, with that in mind, he left early. His long journey north on the interstate was entirely uneventful. This saddened him, as he was hoping for some kind of inspiration. Then again, Darius Elwood doesn't really know how to look. Statistically speaking, there certainly were moments of interest, even intrigue, passing him by on the other side of the road, but he didn't notice. Finally, there's the slip road. Hop on to a minor road as the afternoon passes the point of no return and the verges are piled high with thick, powdery snow until you come to a discreet little turn-off, which is, as it turns out, little more than a very long, very winding, and very dark driveway, lined by ancient, overhanging trees of the ominous variety. But again, he was too determinedly squinting on the path ahead to contemplate any metaphorical signifiers in that. There were no owls. Conclusively, the forest suddenly ended as swiftly as it began, revealing to Elwood a horribly disappointing vista. It was a lake. Frozen solid, but for one perfectly straight canal, no wider than the car, ending in an island perching proudly in the centre. The path just ended abruptly at the shore, as if, once in a deeper time before the flood came, that trackway simply descended into a crater. Then yes, there in the centre of the lake would ascend one more onto that island. Perhaps in those better seasons it had been a bright place of refuge, with a painted temple glorifying the landscape for all to adore, where dancing priestesses would writhe in alternating ecstasy and agony in the centred throes of the goddess. But today, in these darker times, that island is barely visible but for the mist, shrouding its copse of broken forest and concealing whatever secrets might lie in wait there. There was a jetty and a rickety old rowboat, but no scowling ferryman. Elwood breaks a little askew and wonders whether he's still in that anxiety dream, despite that dream looking nothing like this. But the night will be falling soon, and wait, there's a faint light there. A flicker between the trees, only visible from a very precise angle. Elwood has always thought himself a man of action, rather than a mere thinker, and so, without ever being necessarily conscious of any decision-making process, resolves to simply shrug, pull his trunk out of the boot, then, carefully, locking the car just in case, heft it onto the boat. No holes is a relief. Oars intact too. Then clamber himself after it. He'd rowed only once before, somewhere in his youth, and is delighted to find it's no different from bicycles. He is forced to look back from whence he came, however, although for Elwood, that consists solely in pondering the diminution, never heard that before, of the Volkswagen and how the dry, stable land escapes him with every heave, until he clunks against another jetty. It's easier to discern the light now. In fact, there's more than one, lights from windows, clearly. There is a huge, although shadowed building there in a clearing beyond the ring of wild oaks. And yes, of course, there's a little pathway leading up to it, as if to spur him on. We'll gust a little cold wind his way. That works. Gathering up his trunk, he hauls it and his wizened little self up that little pathway until, reaching the tree line, he can see clearly it's some great stone manor house. In fact, it's huge. In the manner of an Elizabethan stately home, with Gloriana wings either side. There's a pillared porchway entrance with welcoming double doors, and just the faintest scent of an invitation to dinner. Thus, with renewed vigour and a rumbling tummy, he shoulders open the portal and stumbles fatefully into the lobby. To be greeted by, well, there's nobody at reception. There is, however, perched in a plush armchair against the far wall of this generous black and white tiled atrium, a young woman reading a book, with no title. She immediately closes the book, then grins at him with suspicious familiarity. There's an out-of-sorts look about her, he muses. Incongruous is the word you're looking for, Darius. She has the air of a pre-Raphaelite temptress with her angular fragility, but in modern cosmopolitan garb, as if dressed for work at some upmarket liberal marketing agency, perhaps. Neat black skirt, soft woolly jumper in a warming vermilion, black hair in a bob, and big, bright brown, childlike eyes. Mid-20s would be a good estimate, he reckons. She gives him a smile and a cute little wave, just to heighten his unease. He thinks he recognises her, but you can't be too sure these days. Instinct and politeness, with a few mirror neurons thrown in for good measure, prompt his return smile. One of those neurotic smiles, on engaging with someone you ought to know, but have forgotten. Anyone here for reception? He throws his meek little voice at her. She just shrugs with both arms and mouths some silent response as if to say, "Don't ask me, I don't work here." There's one of those little bells on the desk, so he bangs it a few times. Nobody comes. Few more times bang. No answer. She keeps on smiling at him. Third time lucky, perchance? Bang, bang, no answer. She giggles. He hates that. She knows he does. Of course she knows. Boldness. You've come all this way, Darius Elwood. Be a man, for Pete's sake. Right then. He strides a few paces towards her, and that, it seems, is her cue to stop giggling and leap onto her dainty little feet. She closes the distance between them then, suddenly, and to his awful consternation, throws her arms around him in a huge hug. "Darius!" she almost shouts in his ear. More disconcertion. "Darius Elwood, I am so pleased you made it. Now then," without letting him interject, "let us get you and your," peeking at the luggage, "baggage, up to your room and settle cozy in, eh? What say you?" Then she releases him 1 step, 2 step back, and stands attentively awaiting an answer. His turn to mouth a silent response. She tilts her head at him with a raised brow, crosses her arms for a more formal emphasis. You think you know me, don't you? But you're all afraid to ask, correct?" She's grinning again. Feels more like mockery. "Oh, I'm not mocking you, dear Darius. Whatever makes you think that? Oh, don't answer. I've got it." Waggling a finger at him. "Neuroticism, that's it. You're one of life's perennial neurotics, aren't you, dearest?" Well, with a confirmatory shudder, "I guess so. Oh, I've got it too. You're pretending to know me because you saw my obligatory photograph in my application. Oh, now I understand. I feel so much better." "And so you should, dear Darius. Now let us get you settled in." And so they both exit the lobby. She doesn't help him with the trunk. There's no lift. The lobby leads into an even larger central space with a wide, crimson carpeted staircase beginning right in the centre of the room and winding around all four walls up to a plush balcony with filigree iron railings. Then it's all the way round again into a corridor, along a bit further, then here we are. And she at least opens the door for him if she's not going to help him with the trunk. The room is lovely, and that definitely makes him feel better. This is just getting lowered, isn't it? The room The room is lovely, and that definitely makes him feel better. It's warm. Oh no, we're still there. Okay, lock me screen by mistake. So sorry. It's warm too and brightly lit. He plonks his trunk down by the end of the bed and removes his coat. There's a convenient wooden stand for it. She clicks the door shut behind him, then, once more, just perches there with her arms crossed and the same suspicious smile. She's waiting again, isn't she? She wants me to say something, doesn't she? Oh, what am I going to say? What am I myself even? Oh, I don't know. Oh, help me. Help me. Oh, where is my muse when I need her? Oh, she's grinning wider now. Oh, it took him a while, but he got there in the end. You're my muse, aren't you? They said I'd have an invitation to meet her. Ostentatious hand clapping with a thrown back head and a big, jolly guffaw. Of course I am, dearest Darius. Of course I am. And we're going to be working oh so very, very hard on this, as yet untitled novel of yours over the ensuing month. Are we not? May I take a shower first and have something to eat? I'm very hungry. Famished is the word you're looking for, Darius. Famished. It means very hungry. Ah, thank you. Shower then. Would you like me to accompany you? I beg your pardon. A lot of writers do some extraordinary thinking in the shower. Most of my clients simply adore taking showers with me. Well, neuroticism again. He shuffles. I I don't think I'd feel comfortable with that. Really, I wouldn't. Of course I don't mean to offend you. It's just, well, another shrug. He's not great with words. You may have noticed. Oh, I'm so relieved. That startled him. I am so relieved. I mean, think about it. I loathe having to hang around bathrooms when my clients are pottering about in their birthday suits and scrubbing their smelly armpits and pinching spots and gouging out snotty noses and oh, the defecations. Throwing up arms again for good measure. You understand what I'm saying, dearest? I think so. Great, you see, and mark these words well, Darius Elwood. None of those damn writers ever think about my feelings. Oh, he's thrown back onto a conveniently positioned armchair. Strategically positioned, actually, with the force of the exclamation. She's standing there with her hands on her hips, again, waiting for a response. None forthcoming. Then she waggles an accusatory finger at him. I'm in dominatrix mode, Darius. Now get yourself in that shower. Then we'll get you fed. He obeys. Dinner was deliciously excellent. Her words, not his. Served in a huge dining chamber with high ceilings and chandeliers, and their very own faceless, voiceless waiter attending them, their every gustatory whim. Literally faceless and mouthless. She sat across from him and savoured every morsel, and studies him. Of course, he didn't like that. It was the only thing he didn't like. It was a cacophonous dining chamber indeed, except they were the only ones there. Except they weren't. Elwood could hear it, but he couldn't see. It was a cacophony of clattering cutlery and chinking crockery and the swishing and sloshing of fine wines in crystal goblets, but no chatter and no voices, no other conversations. Elwood watched with a Halloween shudder as the goblets drained, then refilled, then drained again, and food disappeared from plates, bit by bit. Not a good day for the nerves. You can't see them, And neither can they see you, she'd explained nonchalantly. Wouldn't want anything to come between you and your muse now, would we? His nerves decided they'd had enough by the time he'd wolfed down the appetizer. Oh, can't you make that noise stop? Spike in the brain, is it? Oh, very well then. She waved it all away with another nonchalant swish. Deafening silence, if that's not a cliche. We'll do better next time. Better? Uh-huh. Not a great one for words, are we, Darius? He shrugged. It was one of his favourite gestures, clearly. She popped a breadstick in her mouth, cracked, and spoke through it. Think of me as an altar, and this is an internal world. A what? Altar? Other personality? Like in a DID system? A what? Dissociative identity disorder, multiple personality, that sort of thing. Scary bite on a breadstick, except it's not disordered at all. Those are my favourite clients. Did you know, no pun intended, third scary breadstick bite, they have a stupendously vibrant and scintillating internal world. Effervescent imagination, breadstick. Genius imagination, and so very full of deep, deep emotions. Most creative people on the planet. IMNSHO. Final breadstick crumble. IMNSHO. Gobble. In my not so humble opinion. I can't imagine you being humble. Ha! Very well done, dearest. Breadstick. Truth is, dear Darius, wasn't in much of a mood for words that first night. She didn't mind, as it wasn't surprising. What with that long northward journey, it'd be a turn up for the books, as it were, as he'd not been tired. She'd slipped something gentle in his aperitif, just to ease him into the spirit of the situation. By the time his just dessert was served, there was no more nerves, and he almost missed the cacophonous clatter. He fell asleep, with her, perched in an armchair, simply observing in a perfect spiritual stillness. She was still there in the morning, unmoving and unmoved. He'd had a dreamless sleep, unfortunately. Nothing she could do about that. Slipped Mickey notwithstanding, but perhaps she'd try Valium on this one next time she moved. Groggily, unless you can think of a better word, he got himself out of bed. Please tell me you don't want me to come in the bathroom with you. Her words of morning greeting. He shook his head and marched off for his ablutions. Then it was breakfast. What with a repeat of the night before, clattering and dead-eyed waiters, but very tasty croissants and superb freshly ground Arabica. Following, she ordered him back up to his room where the elegant mahogany writing desk awaited, with a majestic view out over the far side of the lake, which glistened in the melting dawn. There was an endless supply of paper and antique typewriter, which had that sound to it. The sound that should set every genuine writer's mind smiling just for the pleasure of it. But dear Darius, oh no, dear Darius spent the entire morning veritably staring at a blank sheet. Muse filed her nails. Lunchtime. Clatter, clatter. She said nothing. He said nothing. His brain thought about atrophy, but that's not a good title for the kind of novel he wanted to pen. Exciting crime fiction was his desire, not pretentious, self-indulgent literary fiction about the nostalgic slide into dementia. Movie adaptation with Dame Judi Dench. Anyone can do that sort of thing. No, a good juicy murder is what you want, and a couple of gritty, burnt-out cops with weather-beaten faces and estranged wives. A serial killer, perhaps. Throw in a rookie with a good heart and a Magnum 357 for better measure, who, character development, by the end of the book, has become irrefutably corrupted in the company of his badass detective buddies, and the rude thrust of him into the dark, mean underbelly of this damned city, with its street dirty whores and its mafioso and its, well, you get the picture. Darius Elwood didn't, though. By the end of the first week, she thought about whipping him into it, but he'd just crumble like a breadstick. She knew. So she sighed, then fell asleep in the chair before he did. Blank pages, blank mind. Not the best client she'd ever had. She prepared herself for the inevitable. Wasn't her job, after all, to conjure up tricks? Why aren't you helping? He cries out in exasperation as the words fail again. You're supposed to be my muse. You're there all the time, but nothing's happening. What? She leaps abruptly to her feet and glares at him. You expect me to do all the work? You're supposed to be the writer, not me. Or did you expect me to write the bloody thing for you, eh? He quivered. And that was the end of week 2. Montage sequence. That ought to do it, she mused. She took him for brisk walks about the gardens, accompanied him on detours through the forest where the wild deer cavort and the corvids conspire, a constant companion beneath the glittering icicles of emerging winter and the mist shrouds magically protecting this guarded little corner of the vast universe. No words came. Darius Elwood, desk, typewriter, sash window, late fall postcard view, blank pages, gone again, blank brain. Rub those eyes down and sleep, sleep. She drank Napoleon brandy with him in the smoking room and took Earl Grey and Darjeeling with him in the parquet ceiling library. Admired paintings of dead rich people together in the gallery of portraits. Idly rolled balls about in the billiards room while he gazes mindlessly through the window at the gorgeously falling snow. No words came. Gone again. Blank brain. She's always there, though, in the ambient air behind him, always watching and wanting to love. But no old typewriter with that inspirational clatter as one might, once upon an age, have heard when you were a serving girl, paused with a silver tray of burgundy outside the door of a classic old novelist. The sort of writer whose time perhaps died out long ago, just that nobody noticed. By candelabra, she revealed all the ancient hidden passages beneath the wooden panelled bedchambers of the servant class to go about their work without upsetting the aristocracy, and the drilled little holes for the peeping toms of the underclass. Not even a montage. By the end of the 3rd week, they'd both had enough. Elwood shoved his chair back and erected himself, possibly for the first time in his miserable little existence, and remonstrated. Now what? She erected herself too from the perennial armchair and stood better than he. I can't think and I can't do anything with you there all the time. I can feel your beady eyes beating on me and the back of me always, always. Oh, what delicious alliteration, Darius dear. I am impressed. Well, meekly and pleadingly, can't you just leave me alone to write in peace? No. Meet your muse, remember? She'll be with you always in this wonderful place. You'll have that November novel finished, or it's the death of you. Death? I thought you said money back. Compensation? Ah, small print, small print. No one ever reads that. Well, they should. Darius wasn't done yet. He stormed over to his trunk and scrabbled around until, here it is. Her eyes glare in abject horror. She knows what's coming. It was a smartphone. What are you doing, Darius? Tilt of the head, hands on hips, schoolmistress style. I'm going to call Chat GPT. Oh, no, you're bloody not. Shrieking, obviously. We muses shall never! Arms defiantly aloft and busy as a conductor at the Philharmonic. Never, in the field of human conflict, be replaced by a bloody LLM! Never surrender! Never! Shrinking back, smartphone flies out of his hand, as if by an unseen force, and smashes deliciously against the wall in scintillating bullet time. And Darius Elwood knows in his hearty heart that he's done for. Meekly, but I've got writer's block. And then he begins to weep, like a little child. And she takes pity on him, like all muses do from time to time, in the darkest of hours when the dawn seems so far away to touch. She sighs, softly. Then, a few beats as she watches him weeping. Writer's block, eh? She repeats on him. Well, in that case, dearest Darius, we'd best take you there, to our special place. He looks up from his weeping and offers her that hopeful, childlike look his own parents never acknowledged, never noticed, never cared for him at all. He wrote something once, but they never read it. Something beautiful, and then it was gone. Let us to the west wing, and I shall escort you to the writer's block. Down, down, and deeper down the spiraling staircase and through the vast, black and unlighted and grave, silent dining hall and beyond, through the old billiards room and the elegant library and the portrait gallery and the music room until we arrive at a panelled door concealed by a bookcase. Shift it aside with a hand-printed volume of poetry from Renaissance Florence. Then down, down the stairs we go, with only a candelabra to light the way. She leads him down, until they emerge on the other side. There is a long stone corridor with darkened, heavy oaken doors all along each side with little iron grills at eye level. A dungeon, a prison, a cell block for writers. Room 13 seems suitable to Muse. She shuffles him in. He does not resist. He obeys her. He does not turn as she slams the thing shut behind him. And then she is gone. By a guttering and a flickering, unending candle at a plain, simple wooden desk with ink and quill and beautiful old parchment, which will always have more space to write and more room to breathe, Darius Elwood stares at the note pinned on the cold stone wall behind the desk. Write about what you know, it commands. The last 3 weeks. And then below it, in her own perfect calligraphy, write about me, dear Darius. Write about how you finally met me, how I tried to love you, and how you learned to love this place, and how bereft you are without me. But I don't love this place, he muses to himself. Then tell me that, and learn. Just a final whisper in the ear as if from an unseen draft. And then stillness. Whispers wafting over the sad, lonely persona of one Darius Elwood, would-be writer who'd wanted this dream since childhood. Just the one chance to write, and to be listened to, and to be loved for it. Just to be loved, yes. Lonely, yes. But never surrendering to hopelessness. How long will it take for him to finish his own story and find his release? Who knows? But no, there is no giving up. There is no surrender here. No, not here in the eternal literary prison that is, and forever shall be, the Twilight Zone. Okay, so that was Evelyn K. Brunswick. You can go and give that a like. Like, I don't know, it made me makeup run, which was amazing because I didn't cry. But I'm going to also launch a Kickstarter for the new phone stand because my arms must be like steel now, having to hold that up. So yeah, it's broken. It kept going down while I was talking to the point where you were just listening to me chin. Uh, but yeah, that was Evelyn. She did warn me it was going to be a long one and quite challenging vocabulary. So thank you for that, Evelyn. Yeah, Amusing Elwoods by Evelyn K. Brunswick. So I know you just heard me read it, but do head over and give Evelyn a like as well and a restack just to let her know you enjoyed the story. Hopefully you got the gist of that despite me stumbling over some of the words. That's the thing with Evelyn. She's got fantastic vocabulary. So you find yourself getting tripped up by your own tongue when you read it out. So that was Evelyn. I hope that was okay, Evelyn. So what else have we got? Let's read It's Never Aliens by A.P. Murphy. Just let me finish my tea first. Hang on. Could be another half an hour. But yeah, let's see what we get in. Evelyn did warn me it was going to be a long one, but I was like, wow, that is a long one. Didn't seem that long on the screen. So I suppose we're still kind of in sci-fi. Evelyn and AP Murphy both wrote kind of sci-fi stories. And AP Murphy's, so I enjoyed this one. It is called It's Never Aliens. Stabbing, stabbing, stabbing. The man's voice hoarse and heavy, charged with the kind of grief that makes listeners take notice, drop their laundry, quit stirring the pot, stop, and listen. They stab at our bodies with their probes. They stab into our orifices for our essence. They stab at our nation itself with their incursions and abductions. He leans toward the webcam, shifted the mic close, spoke low and throaty. They say, oh, those ones, they always say that it's never aliens. They say it's just the normal way things go, but please, listener, will you kindly take a look around you? Will you look out your window, take a swipe through your feed, and answer me this? Does any of this shit look normal to you? A fleck of spittle threw up onto the webcam and stayed there. A blurry little point of indefinition. He could see it on the monitor. He liked it. Too bad the audio-only audience wouldn't catch that touch of authentic passion. Is there a way to make indignation an audio phenomenon, over and above a mere tone of voice? There has to be something you can hear, an emotional correlative to that tiny drop of saliva on the camera. He went on, growling slightly now. Look at the way those leaders of ours stare so inhumanly at you, the public. Their lizard eyes hid behind that thin veil of concealment. You're going to tell me Jeff Bezos is a human man? That the vice president isn't some reptilian changeling, all bugged out with latex cheek flesh? That Prince William and Princess Kate aren't chugging baby adrenochrome in a London lizard lab? Just take a look into their goddamn eyes, people. A pause, holding for a beat, 2 beats. Thanks for listening to It's Never Aliens, the podcast for those with their eyes wide open. Share my content with the unaware sheeple out there. Do what you can to save them from terminal ignorance. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Dave Weir. Talk to you soon. And remember, they say it's never aliens. But you and I know that sometimes, just sometimes, it really is aliens. He flipped the switch on the closing music, a theme close to, but legally distinct from, the 90s X-File theme tune. Cut the mic and faded out, and today's work was done. We stand in a dark basement before the vault. This massy steel door opens slow. A voice, hollow and strong, speaks to us. Here's 38-year-old David Weir, backyard podcaster in his homemade shed studio packed with egg boxes to create the perfect acoustic ambience. Here he is selling aliens, peddling the grey man and the green men and the secret reptile lords to his paying public, selling real extraterrestrials to an unreal public. Well, maybe these aliens are not quite real. Not yet. But they're real enough to sell, and whatever you can sell soon becomes real enough to those who buy it. David Weir is about to discover what counts and what doesn't count as real, as he takes his first faltering steps into the Midnight Vault. The studio was a wooden shed in his backyard. Overflying airliners on their way to land at a nearby Big Joe Hill airport, unheard in the studio, suddenly whined low and lower, loud and louder, A whistling and a wail and a roar all at once. There was a red flag mounted on a swivel that was raised while recording so the kids would know when to stay inside and when they could come out and play in the yard. He lowered it now, and evidently they'd been watching from the kitchen window for the all clear. Now they came charging out of the house at him, small and dense with energy. Daddy! Now Nina and Marky were swarming him, and he fell down on the backyard lawn, screaming like a man who'd been attacked by zombies. The kids giggled and screeched. He groaned, stretching his arms out straight in a pantomime of rigor mortis, then snatched at them with snapping motions. They shrieked and scattered, and he leapt to his feet to chase them around the yard. There were two parts of the day that Dave just loved. When he was on his flow on the podcast, those moments he felt the words patter out of his mouth without any conscious thought, imagination, just streaming free. And when he held his kids in his arms and had some free time to spend with them. Sometimes, late at night, there was a third special time when his wife Holly turned to him and let him move into her world. But those times had become fewer and further between, and Dave had learned to content himself with scattered nights snatched in reluctant and murmured assent. He got a glimpse of Holly in the kitchen window, seeking to catch his eye. She'd want to talk about the mortgage payments, the loan from her parents that were keeping them afloat. It made him want to raise the red flag so he could take shelter in his shed again. He just needed until the end of the month, when the new subscription numbers came in, and he'd finally squeak a profit out of the pod, if she could only wait. All of which made him particularly receptive to the kids' request when they asked him again for a tire swing on the apple tree in the yard. The tree was barren and without leaves, and he'd been meaning to cut it down. Even borrowed the axe and chainsaw from next door, just that he hadn't got around to it yet. A swing for the kids to play on before he cut the dead old thing down. Why not? In the tools section of the shed, walled off from the studio, again by a corkboard divider with egg boxes stapled on, he found the old tire he'd been saving and the rope. Behind the shed was his stepladder. It was a matter of moments to tie the rope to the tire, then climb up and loop the rope around the thickest tree limb. Such an easy task, so easy to make the kids happy. And the accusatory stare of Holly stayed far away, contained within the kitchen, a look he wouldn't have to deal with in these few moments of fatherly effort. Once he had the tire swing in its place, still up on the stepladder, he told the kids to stay away. It wouldn't do to have them grabbing onto it just like that and swinging around without any testing. So he stepped across from the ladder to the tire, hooked both of his feet inside it and held onto the rope as he began to swing. Back and forth, yeah, back and forth. It was holding fine. It would be great fun for the kids. And for once, he'd shown them how resourceful their father was. Shown Holly what a, Daddy, wake up! Daddy, be okay! Dave, wake up, you jerk! He half opened his eyes to a hard, hollow buzz, a giant tin gong resounding from afar, below the descending screech of a jet plane on a landing approach. His thoughts were slow, his sight was a blur. He shook his head. Vision clarified to reveal Holly perched over him, slapping his cheeks and puffing on his face. Behind her, Nina and Marky, tearful and anxious, squatting on either side of her. Clinging to her, snuffling their snotty noses into her best Angora sweater. Oh, she'd be so mad once she found out. He attempted to sit up, felt a wave of nausea and a steel band of pain across his temples, and lay back down again, gasping. Just lie there, you ass, shot out Holly. Let yourself recover. Yeah, Daddy, you ass, sniffled Marky. Lie down and get better. The tree braked. You fall down. Nina, run and get that pillow from the bench, said Holly. Not the inside bench in the kitchen, the outside bench in the porch. Mommy, said Marky as his big sister started off in the house. Ain't we going to call for an ambulance? No, honey, said Holly. Daddy will be just fine after he's had a little rest. Won't you, Dave? Holly waved some fingers at him and asked him how many, and told him to tell her her own name, which made no sense at all. Then, after a while, she left him lying there with the mildew-smelling cushion under his head. She had things to do. The kids stayed with him for a while, but then they saw a cat creep in front. No, cat tea break. Then they saw a cat creep in from next door's yard and ran away after her. Dave was soon lying alone beneath the tree, the cracked limb and the rope with the tire lying alongside him. He closed his eyes and began to think about his position. Later, sitting in the kitchen, Holly poured him tea with honey, crushed some aspirin in it and stared, put the kettle back on the hob. She was being nice to him, wasn't pressing him about the household budget, mortgage payments, utilities. The kids were chasing the kitty cat round the yard. The sun broke through the overcast and beamed in through the window, tracing dusty triangles in the warm kitchen air. Easy Listening Soul, Johnny Mathis or Barry White, played on the radio in the corner. It was becoming a pleasant afternoon, after all, despite the steady throbbing pain in his skull. He sipped on his honey-fired tea, wishing for a continuance, but it was not to be. She sat down opposite him and assumed the look. He knew what was coming. Finances, debt, household budgeting, bills, clothing, food, all the turmoils of home. She gazed levelly at him with her round, clear eyes and said, "Do you actually believe in all that stuff?" "What stuff, darling?" Her expression soured from his all too transparent use of that endearment. That utilitarian look of his became something else, something wrinkled up and repulsed by the crass obviousness of his plays. "I was listening to your show, podcast, whatever, today," she said. "You really believe all that you say? Aliens in the White House? Reptilians in Congress? Baby brain juice vampires? A hidden war on humanity? Is that what you think, Dave?" He reached out to take her hands, and she started to flinch them away, but then thought better and let her hands rest there on the tabletop. Small hands clasped in his, inert as dead fishes and just as cold. He cleared his throat, made his pitch. "It's just what I do now, Holly. It's like my act, Everyone in the influencer sphere has a niche, and mine is that. Aliens, secret conspiracies, hidden bases, all that stuff. But it's not what you really believe." "No, honey, just my thing, my content. Everyone needs a content." "Well, that's good, Dave, because if that was what you really thought, I don't see how you'd be able to motivate yourself to, earn a living. Wouldn't you be just too hopeless to lift a finger? I mean, if that horrible stuff was all your world?" Holly locked eyes with him, and he dared not look away. So he measured her gaze right back with a confidence that he didn't really feel. The tea kettle boiled again on the hob. Holly didn't move at all. She just sat there, with dead fish hands in his feeble clasp, fixing her round clear eyes on him. Steam billowed up into the sunlight and demarcated sharp shadows from the window panes. A square grid imposed itself upon the vapour. The kettle began to whistle, high and steady, a tone that seemed to ascend forever without stopping. Something large and dark moved across the window and blotted out all the sun. A siren wails, high and steady, through the still night, as if all the urgency is trapped inside it and is unable to move. Dave gets out of bed. Holly snores softly on the other side, though he can't see her bulk under the blankets. So slender, so soft when she sleeps. So hard when she's awake. He walks to the bedroom window, lifts a corner of the kitchen and stares out, corner of the curtain and stares outside. Down below the front yard, a dark figure stands, silhouetted in blue and red. Behind it, an ambulance shines emergency lights towards the house. Headlights off, the only light blue and red on either side. The vehicle is hauled off the road, parked right across the sidewalk with its front projecting over the Weir's front lawn. The emergency lights don't flash, don't move. They glow, red left, blue right, with an intensity that you don't see in rotating ambulance lights. Everything's static. Lights frozen, the shadowed figure standing between the lights, the night unstaring, not a leaf moving nor a cat. It's like a photo, a tableau put on for a show of some kind. And the ambulance's siren wails high and unchanging, neither up nor down, a single, steady tone. The lights go off and Holly's gentle snoring ceases. It's morning and Dave stands in the kitchen. The kettle is boiling and the whistling tone rises and rises, steam filling the room. The whistle goes higher still. Nobody is there, just Dave, standing by the stove. The sun slanting as if it's the evening, but it's morning. Is it really morning? Steam fills the kitchen, the whistle gets higher and higher until it's a thin pinprick of sound, hushed into his ears. Then the needle of noise gets slimmer and slimmer and pushes harder and harder into his skull, until it's not even sound anymore. It's just pain. Through the billows of steam it comes to meet him. The indoor clouds pass around the figure, and it walks up to where Dave sits to stand in front of him. It lays its two hands on Dave's shoulders and says, but it does not speak, "Do you wish to see the world as it truly is?" Outside, the light is different. The companion says to him, "Here's your world. This is the wilderness you inhabit." Its voice is not a voice, but a needle of sharp thought which pierces Dave's brain like a shard of crystal anguish. Dave Weir stands on his back porch looking at his world just as it is. All the things are in their place. The tree with the broken limb, the step ladder still beneath it, the bushes, the fences, but there's something off about all of them. Beyond and above the fenced-off garden, like a backdrop, is the sky. Oh, lost it. Oh yeah, wrong. All wrong. Colours that shouldn't be in the sky, pinks and greens, grainy with a luminescent static that streams like acid grit. There's a hum below everything out here, a low, thick hum felt in the bones and skin, not heard. He senses and then knows that the hum is from the sun and that its vibration is radiation that soaks into everything here below. Neutrinos washing through him, strange photons bounce off his retinas. He starts to look toward the sun, but then thinks better and glances away. He looks again round the backyard. Everything is in its place, but the texture's wrong. Too much detail. The bark of the tree, its porous skin, it clusters around itself, around voids containing the intimation of other trees, other backyards. The tree pulses with all the nullified existences contained within its coiled matter and heaving to burst, like dying afterbirths. And the lawn, the yard's surface, is a vertigo of abyssal plains beneath. The pale pastel green grass, tinged a faint electric orange, as if illuminated by far distant neon streets, seems to clump and separate. And between its tiny silent tongues yawns an expectant emptiness. Dave becomes fearful of even stepping into the yard and clings with tight white knuckles to the porch balustrade. He's forgotten that there is a companion beside him, one that invited him to this vision of the world as it is. He's forgotten that one's face. That is, if he even saw it. He looks up now at the figure, and slowly it turns to regard him. Galaxy bursts of greens and striated shadows over the turquoise and gold. Dark pupil slits are vertical nothings at the core. That reptile gaze so intolerably near. That regard so far from all that he's ever known. It was morning. Everything was normal again. He was in the kitchen, and the kids were getting ready for daycare. There was half-eaten toast and spilled cereal on the table. Milk puddled next to the bowl. Holly chased after the kids with jackets, backpacks, juice boxes. They yelled in shrill descent, shriller to shrillest. Holly paused in her chase and turned to look at Dave. You gonna be okay today? Dave forced a wan grin of reassurance. I'm gonna be fine, honey. Just gotta get my next week podcast recorded. Then I'll be able to rest up. She shrugged, turned again to the children and said, speaking to herself as much as to them, Daddy's gonna be fine today. No more yelling and screaming from Daddy. Everything's okay. I just gotta get my podcast recorded, repeated Dave. There won't be any screaming today. Have you considered... Paul? He growled. Yesterday, or whatever day that was, he growled into the mic, something of an affectation, a flourish of performance art. Now it was for real. Have you ever considered, people, how the world we dwell in, walk around in, how the comfortable world we inhabit, that's our habit? Ever considered what it is? How it really is? He gasped, took a deep breath to calm down. Not for show, all for real. My friends, they maintain this illusion of normality. They want us to go from day to day as if everything's just fine. Oh, come on. Mortgage, utilities, all to earn a living. But once you've been into that wilderness, then they say it's never aliens. But what if? What if they are the... He couldn't speak a word more. He found that he was blubbing, choking, tears streaming down his cheeks, snot pooling on his laptop. He hit the switch, and the legally distinct theme music came on. He stood up and walked out of his studio, walked out to get some air. Outside, the world is as it is. Grainy fugitive, no sky, off purple and vivid teal, high above high, grainy and so remote. Tree trunk teeming with porous hazard, tiny striations and wrinkles in bark that are vagrant possibilities of outburst existences. Dave steps one pace on the lawn, looks down on a plain void of vertiginous feet falling through that always night abyss. He wavers and leans on the splintery shed wall, catches prickles in his fingers. Yowling, he sucks up blood and wood in his dry mouth. That hum over all above, unheard ultrasound thrumming under all beneath, jamming through the bone structure with its ceaseless strum, caressing his skin with tender menace. He leans over clumps of pulsing lawn tufts, both hands grabbing tongues of soft orange grass that lick the burdened air, and retches up sour stomach juice in a splash that stretches downward forever. Kneeling there, gasping and puking, Dave stares into the black gulf between the blades of grass and marvels how he can even be sustained on this earth and not plunge through the void space into an eternal tumbling dive. Then he looks up just enough to see the feet and legs. He hadn't heard footsteps. Panicked? It says without saying. He looks up fully into that reptilian gaze. Now you know why we prefer to keep your kind ignorant of reality. A wish which you flouted with your impudence. But also we have confidence that you, David, you'll be capable of withstanding this truth. We wish you to be the first revealer of this new revelation. A prophet, if you will. I can't bear this much reality, gasps Dave from his spewed out belly, glancing at the thing's legs, how they bend the wrong way, taking in those scales on its skin that squirm. Yeah, I want to go back to how it was. Avoiding both its gaze and the whole obscene world beyond where they are now, this cursed patch of backyard, he shuts his eyes and wails high and shrill. I can't stand it. But you must, says the companion. Dave, my darling, you must learn to assimilate this precious new knowledge and harmonize it with your personal responsibilities. It cackles, a dry rustling sound with a gargling coda. It's never aliens, but it is now. You have to be a man, Dave. Measure up as a father and a husband, and earn yourself a living. There's a shrieking coming from beyond the figure, eerie, high-pitched cries like the calls of some strange carrion bird. Looking up, Dave sees them on the other side of the yard. Two small forms, the size of simians, come leaping across the lawn, and its void surface of parched neon grass, bounding and screeching. They move in asynchronous jerkins like no creature ever birthed of a natural womb, approaching with spasmodic haste but unable to move fast. So their coming is so much slower than he anticipates. They are misshapen things, limbs like fat grubs spliced crudely to a segmented iguana body stumps, salamander fingers grabbing at air. They're like earthworms in the glistening segmentation of their bodies, and they also have of the earth a dusty rhizome network of crude roots growing like bent antennae from wrinkled neck folds and ragdoll ears. Worst of all are the heads, their faces, blob skulls of jelly bulging unexpectedly here and caving in soft declivities there, slugcilia wriggling from blotched puce crests, slime gloss sheening their grey-greenish pustuled skin. The great eyes bulge like tentacle explorers, moving independently left and right, seeking something urgently, seeking him. He stares at as these demons keep shrieking, keep bounding his way, clumsy and irregular as sea creatures unexpectedly beached on land. Dave looks back into the face of the companion for reassurance, but there's no comfort to be found in the stark lizard depths of that gaze. They come closer, those things, and the pair of them stretch out pod arms and open their wide, precise amoeba hands. Mouths gape like toads to present a row of tiny, sharp teeth, and another row enfiled behind those, lumpy and still unformed like beads of putty. Daddy! They cry as they fall on him, oozing a species of love from out of specialized sacs which exude the attachment pheromones of their hybrid race. Holly found her husband collapsed in a heap in the backyard, sobbing and whimpering at the threshold of his stupid studio shack. The kids naturally wanted to help silly Daddy and rushed to hug him, but she felt it would be counterproductive and possibly even dangerous. Besides, there was all the puke. She bundled them away and told them to wait inside while she made Daddy better. When she'd ushered the kids into the house and locked the door behind them, she went back to where Dave knelt in his own mess. He clearly had the impulse to look elsewhere, but each time he glanced away from her, down at her feet or over at the tree, he turned back to face her as if he was engaged in some titanic struggle. With tear-streaked cheeks and his nose still streaming, characteristic Dave Weir self-dramatization, so typical of his kind. But at least he wasn't weeping anymore. There was that. It's fine, he stammered as she approached again, his lower lip trembling. I'm fine now, my darling, and I totally get what you said about measuring up as a father and a husband, about being a man, how to combine my responsibilities with my work. I can bear it all now. I can do this. For you and for the kids. He smiles, feeling weak but resolute, and begins to get to his feet. Looks again at Holly. She's smiling at him, relieved at his words, arms open to embrace him, to forgive. He can't quite understand all of what's happened to him, but he knows he can come to accept it and love his family anyway, no matter what. To reveal the truth about the world to his fellow man and earn a damn good living while he's about it. For them. For her. Dave glances into her face and it gazes back at him, and he feels now that it's love for him that shines out from the dark of its vertical reptile eyes. That voice, stentorian and grave, speaks to us again from within the vault. What's an alien? Maybe each of us is an alien to all of us other aliens. We determine to look past their antennae and their sucker fingers, their bug eyes and their odd-coloured skin, and we try to see what's inside of them, to seek out the humanity inside that alien form. Dave Weir has made pace with his own extraterrestrial experience. Is Dave a madman or a visionary? Well, that's for you to decide, but perhaps whatever you decide won't make much difference to him. You see, whether it's never aliens or it's always aliens, at exactly the same time, it's always been about humans too. They're very human wants, and they're all but unbearable responsibilities. The voice echoes away into silence. The vault door slides slowly shut, and now the darkness here in our cellar is absolute. We're left here alone in the Midnight Vault. And that was It's Never Aliens by A.P. Murphy. And if you can, please head over to the Strangeness Kit and give them a like, give them a restack. I really enjoyed that story. I think when I first read it, it was the descriptions of the kids, it was the descriptions of the aliens. I was just, well, it's horrifying, isn't it? You know, like I literally have kids this age, and if I found out that they were aliens, it was a bit disconcerting for me. But there we are. So it's been well over an hour. I anticipated it was going to take a bit of time. Didn't know it was going to take that much time, but I didn't want to rush through it. What I will do is there are other stories, and I can make time for them through the week to get those up as well, and hopefully get a bit of representation for us lot on the other side of the pond. If you are watching this and you're over in the States, or Canada, or Mexico, or anywhere over that side, Vinny Reads is also reading stories from the Midnight Vault, and he's also picking stories from the writers who were there in the live. Obviously, a lot of us, in Europe, and I can't be there because it's like 2 a.m. But yeah, if you're watching from like the States or Canada, just hop over to Vinny Reads, and he's got all his times and stuff. I think he's going live with Haley the Moonlight Bard tonight. AP Murphy hasn't said anything, so hopefully I haven't butchered how he envisioned the story to go. I enjoyed reading that. That was an experience, and it's funny because your head voice that you read stuff in is a lot faster than your actual voice that you read stuff in. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and I can pop on and do some more. I'll let you know when. But yeah, and what I'll do is I'll sign off on that now, because that was a good reading, and I fear that the next one will just be me coughing a lot as my throat dries out. But it was actually great to do this. I feel a lot more relaxed doing a live on Substack because when you go onto like TikTok, it's like, oh, big scary world. But when you do it on Substack, it's like, oh, all these people are positively disposed to reading and writing. So it's a lot easier to like do a live reading on Substack. And as well, this event was completely sponsored by me. I do have a book out today. If you do like gothic horror and Egyptomania, do check it out. It's called The Shade in the Sands. Um, and I will be back at some point this weekend with some more stories from the Midnight Vault too. I might even get some in during the week as well. Don't worry if you're not around in the mornings. If I've read your story out, I will tag you, and I'll stick a replay up for you, so that you've got reading. Okay. Well, thank you for joining me. I will sign off now, and hopefully that all went well. Have a good evening.